My wife cheated on me with just a friend, and then told me she was pregnant. Now I don't even know if it's my kid. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Ashley for 8 years. We met in college, and it felt like a perfect match from the start. We've always been close, at least I thought we were. We don't have kids, and for the most part, we've been living what seemed like a pretty average life in our suburban neighborhood. But a few months ago, something changed. Ashley became more secretive, especially with her phone. She started putting it face down all the time, and she was spending way more time texting than usual. At first, I brushed it off. I figured it was just friends or maybe work stuff. But then, she started going out more. She said she was hanging out with her girlfriends or going to the gym late at night. She never used to do that. I'm not the jealous type. I've always trusted her. But something felt off. You know that gut feeling? Like you just know something's wrong, even if there's no hard proof yet. That's when I started paying attention. So, the late nights started getting more frequent. Ashley would leave the house around 8 or 9, sometimes even later, saying she was meeting her girlfriends or taking a yoga class. I didn't think too much of it at first. I mean, she's always been independent, and I didn't want to be that controlling husband who questions everything. But it was weird because she never used to have these late-night hobbies. She'd be gone for hours, and when she got back, she'd be all bubbly, like she'd had the best time ever. But she wouldn't tell me much about it. If I asked, I'd get vague answers like, oh, just catching up with the girls, or it was just a workout, nothing exciting. Then there was her phone. She used to leave it lying around all the time, but now, she was glued to it. Every time a text would come through, she'd smile at the screen and then quickly hide it. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd laugh and say it was just a group chat with her friends. She also changed her passcode, which she'd never done before. That was a red flag, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. The worst part, one night, she didn't come home until almost 1 a.m. I stayed up, waiting for her, worried something had happened. When she finally walked through the door, she looked flustered and out of breath. I asked her where she'd been, and she snapped at me, saying I was acting paranoid. She claimed she'd lost track of time and that I was being ridiculous for waiting up for her. That was the moment I realized something wasn't right. But I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think that my wife, the woman I've loved for so long, could be cheating on me. After that night, things started spiraling. Ashley's behavior was getting more erratic, but it was her defensiveness that really set off alarms. Every time I asked about her nights out, she'd blow up, accusing me of being controlling and not trusting her. It was like she was twisting the situation, making me feel guilty for being concerned. One night, we were watching TV when her phone buzzed. She quickly grabbed it and left the room. I couldn't help but overhear a bit of her conversation. It was hushed, and I could hear her giggle like a teenager. When she came back, I asked who it was, and she said, "Just work stuff." But she was still smiling, like she couldn't hide her excitement. I decided I needed to get to the bottom of it. I mean, I wasn't going to just sit around and drive myself crazy. So, one evening when she was in the shower, I grabbed her phone. My heart was pounding, but I knew I had to know. I didn't even get a chance to look. Her phone was locked with a new passcode. She'd never hidden anything from me like that before. When I asked her about it later, she brushed it off. "I've been getting weird spam calls," she said. I had to change it, but I wasn't buying it. It didn't add up. Things hit a breaking point a few nights later. She said she was heading to a book club at a friend's place. But when I casually mentioned it to one of her close friends at a barbecue the next day, the friend looked confused. "Ashley doesn't go to book clubs," she said. My stomach dropped. That's when I knew I wasn't just being paranoid. Something was definitely going on, and I had to find out what it was. The more I thought about it, the more I realized Ashley's stories didn't add up. The book club lie really stuck with me. I started paying more attention to her behavior and trying to piece things together. But I knew I couldn't just confront her without any real proof. I needed something concrete. A few days later, she made her biggest mistake. It was a Friday, and she had the same routine, getting dressed up, way more than she ever did for me, and telling me she was meeting her friends for drinks. But this time, she left her tablet at home. Ashley rarely used it, but I knew it was synced to her phone. My hands were practically shaking when I opened it, hoping to find something. Sure enough, there it was, a message notification from some guy named Derek. I opened their chat, and it was like a punch to the gut. The messages were flirty, way too intimate for just friends. There was one that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Last week was amazing." And another that read, "I'll book the same hotel. You know, the one with the view." I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. She wasn't going out with her girlfriends or to a book club. She was meeting this guy, Derek, at a hotel. I sat there, staring at the screen, not knowing what to do. My mind was racing. I wanted to scream, throw the tablet, break something, but I just sat there, frozen. How could this be happening? How could she do this to me? When Ashley came home that night, it was almost 2 a.m. I pretended to be asleep, but inside, I was boiling with anger. I knew I had to confront her, but I needed to do it when I was calm. I couldn't let her turn this around on me again. The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I had barely slept, and my mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts. Ashley was acting as if nothing was wrong, humming to herself while making coffee. I watched her, feeling this mix of anger, hurt, and disbelief. How could she just act so normal after coming home from him? I decided it was time. So I said, trying to sound as calm as possible, "How was your night with the girls?" She didn't look up. "Good," she replied casually, sipping her coffee. "We just hung out, had a few drinks." I could feel my blood boiling. "You sure it was just the girls?" I asked, my voice tightening despite my efforts to stay composed. That's when she finally looked at me. I could see a flicker of something, maybe panic, cross her face, but she quickly recovered. "Yeah, why?" she asked, her voice sharp, like I was the one out of line. I took a deep breath, trying to control the storm inside me. "You sure it wasn't someone named Derek?" The color drained from her face instantly. She froze, her eyes wide, like a deer caught in headlights. For a second, she didn't say anything. Then she stammered, "W, what are you talking about?" "I know, Ashley," I said, my voice steady but cold. "I saw the messages. I know you've been meeting him, and I know about the hotel." Her face went from shock to anger in a flash. "Are you going through my stuff now?" she snapped, trying to deflect. "That's such an invasion of privacy. How dare you spy on me?" I couldn't believe it. She was actually trying to make me the bad guy. "Don't turn this around on me," I shot back, my voice rising. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around, and meeting this guy behind my back. How long, Ashley? How long have you been cheating on me?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again, as if she was trying to come up with something, anything to say. But the truth was out, and there was no talking her way out of it now. After a long silence, Ashley finally spoke, but not in the way I expected. Instead of owning up to it, she doubled down. "You're being paranoid," she spat out, her voice trembling. "Derek is just a friend. I don't know what you think you saw, but it's not what you're making it out to be." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. Even when caught red-handed, she was still lying. I stared at her in disbelief. A friend? Ashley, you don't book hotel rooms with friends and sneak around late at night. She folded her arms, her defensive posture almost laughable. "I don't know what you think you know, but you're blowing this way out of proportion. I didn't do anything wrong." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The evidence was right there, but she was acting like I was the one who had lost my mind. It was infuriating. I took a step closer, my hands clenched at my sides. "I saw the messages, Ashley. You told him last week was amazing. You booked the same hotel room. Do you really think I'm that stupid?" She flinched at my words, and for a moment, I saw a crack in her facade. But then she doubled down again, shaking her head. "You're just being jealous. I told you, We're just friends. I don't know what kind of weird conclusions you've jumped to, but you've got it all wrong." Her voice was so calm, like she really believed what she was saying. I felt my stomach churn. How could she stand there, lying to my face, knowing I knew the truth? The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't recognize. In that moment, something inside me broke. I realized she wasn't going to confess, wasn't going to admit to anything. She was going to keep lying, keep twisting the truth until she made me feel like I was the one at fault. I couldn't take it anymore. Her constant lies, the way she twisted everything back onto me. It was too much. My hands were shaking as I tried to calm myself down, but the anger and betrayal were too raw. "You know what?" I said, my voice low but filled with hurt. "I don't care what you say anymore. I know the truth, Ashley. You've been cheating, and you don't even have the decency to admit it." She rolled her eyes, still acting like I was the one being irrational. "You're overreacting," she said coldly. "And honestly, I'm tired of this conversation. If you're going to keep accusing me of things I didn't do, maybe you're the problem here, not me." That was it. That was the moment I realized we were done. No more denial, no more excuses. I couldn't stand the sight of her anymore, couldn't stand her lies. My voice cracked as I spoke, but I didn't care. "I'm done, Ashley. I don't know who you are anymore, but this marriage, it's over." Her eyes widened in shock, like she hadn't expected me to say it. "What? Are you serious?" "Dead serious," I replied. "You've been lying to me for months. You've been sneaking around behind my back. I gave you the chance to come clean, and you just keep lying. I deserve better than this." She stared at me, and for the first time, I saw something close to fear in her eyes. Maybe she didn't think I'd actually walk away. Maybe she thought I'd keep taking it, keep letting her walk all over me. But I couldn't anymore. "So what now?" she asked, her voice quieter now, almost unsure. I looked at her, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. "Now, I want a divorce." Ashley didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, stunned, like she couldn't believe the words that had just come out of my mouth. The defiance drained from her face, replaced by a flicker of panic. I think for the first time, she realized that I wasn't going to let this slide. "A divorce?" "Jake, come on," she started, her voice suddenly softer, like she was trying to backtrack. "Let's not jump to extremes. We can fix this. You're just angry right now." "Angry?" I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "You've been cheating on me for God knows how long, and you think this is just about me being angry? This is about trust, Ashley, and you've completely destroyed it." She took a step toward me, her expression desperate. "It wasn't like that," she said, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean for things to get this far. Derek, he doesn't mean anything. It was just stupid. I messed up, okay? But we can work through this." Her sudden change in tone caught me off guard. Now, she was admitting to it, after denying it over and over again, but the damage had already been done. I couldn't unsee the messages, couldn't unhear the lies she told straight to my face. "You didn't just mess up, Ashley," I said, my voice raw. "You betrayed me, and you lied again and again. How am I supposed to believe anything you say now?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't feel the sympathy I might have once felt. I was too far gone for that. "Jake, please," she begged, her voice breaking. "We've been through so much together. Don't throw it all away. I'll end things with Derek. It's over. I swear, we can fix this." But as she spoke, all I could feel was numbness. She was grasping at straws, trying to salvage what was left, but I couldn't see a way back. "You should have thought about that before," I said quietly. "You made your choice." She reached out to grab my hand, but I pulled away. I couldn't deal with this anymore. It was time for me to walk away from the lies, the betrayal, the pain she had caused. After I pulled away from her, the room felt ice cold. There was this heavy silence between us, and Ashley just stood there, her tears rolling down her face. But I couldn't bring myself to care anymore. Whatever we had, whatever connection we once shared, it felt broken beyond repair. "Jake, please," she whispered, trying one last time to reach out to me. "I didn't mean for this to happen. It was a mistake. Don't end everything because of one mistake." "One mistake," I said, my voice rising in disbelief. "Ashley, it wasn't just one mistake. You didn't trip and fall into an affair. This wasn't an accident. You lied to me for months. You chose to be with him repeatedly. You chose to lie, to hide it, and then try to make me feel like I was losing my mind." She dropped her head, finally unable to look at me. "I don't know why I did it," she muttered, as if that somehow explained everything. I was bored. Things got routine. It didn't mean anything." That was like a punch to the gut. All those late nights, the secret texts, the hotel meetups. She was telling me it didn't mean anything. How could she be so careless with our marriage? With me? "Well, it means something to me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It means our marriage is over. You didn't respect me, or what we built together. You threw it all away for what? A fling? Because you were bored." She tried to speak again, but I cut her off. "No more excuses, Ashley. I'm done. You've made your choice. Now I'm making mine." For the first time, she seemed to realize that I was serious, that this wasn't something we could just sweep under the rug. Her tears came harder, and she sank into a chair, her face buried in her hands. "Please don't do this," she sobbed. "I can't lose you. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. Just don't leave." But it was too late for that. I couldn't unsee the messages, couldn't erase the lies or the betrayal. I had loved her, trusted her, and she had shattered that trust in ways that couldn't be fixed. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her behind. After walking out of the room, I went straight upstairs to our bedroom. I didn't even hesitate as I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and started packing. It was strange, really, how quickly things had fallen apart. A week ago, I would have never imagined I'd be stuffing clothes into a bag, leaving my wife behind. But here I was. Ashley followed me upstairs, her voice shaky, pleading with me to stay. "Jake, where are you going? Don't do this. Please, let's talk. We can work this out." But I didn't stop packing. I couldn't. Every word she said felt like salt in a wound. I kept thinking about all those nights she was out with him, all the lies she told, and how easily she acted like everything was fine between us. "I can't stay here," I said firmly, zipping up my suitcase. "I need space, Ashley. I need time to think about what comes next." Her face crumpled, and she leaned against the doorframe, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "But where will you go? You don't have to leave. We can stay here and figure this out." I shook my head. "No, I can't stay in this house right now. Not after everything." She tried to block my way as I made my way downstairs, practically begging me to stay. "I'll change," she pleaded. "I'll cut all ties with him. I'll do whatever it takes, Jake. Just don't leave me like this." But I was too far gone. I couldn't look at her without feeling the betrayal. "It's not that simple," I said quietly. "You've already broken us." I grabbed my keys, not even sure where I was going. I just knew I had to get out of there. "I'll stay at a friend's for a while," I said over my shoulder as I opened the door. "I'll be in touch about what comes next." And with that, I walked out of the house, leaving Ashley sobbing by the door. That night was one of the hardest of my life. I ended up crashing on my buddy Mike's couch. Mike didn't ask too many questions. He's the kind of guy who knows when something's wrong but doesn't push unless you want to talk. All I told him was that I needed a place to stay for a bit, and he didn't hesitate to help out. Lying there on that couch, I felt numb. It wasn't like I expected to feel instantly better after leaving, but it hit me just how much my life had changed in a matter of hours. Everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I could count on, was shattered. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past few months in my head. The late nights, the excuses, the lies. How had I not seen it sooner? I wanted to be angry, to scream, to feel something other than the hollow pit in my chest. But all I could feel was exhaustion. My phone buzzed a few times. Ashley, no doubt, but I didn't have the energy to deal with it. I didn't want to read her apologies, her pleas, her excuses. I wasn't ready to face her or the mess she'd made of our lives. I thought about everything she had said before I walked out. Her tears, her begging me to stay. Part of me wondered if I'd been too harsh, if I should have stayed and tried to work through it. But then I remembered the lies, the hotel, the secret text, and any trace of doubt vanished. She'd made her choice, and now I had to make mine. Eventually, the weight of the day caught up with me, and I passed out on Mike's couch, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. The next morning, I woke up on Mike's couch, feeling like I hadn't really slept at all. My mind was racing with everything that had happened, but I knew I couldn't hide forever. As much as I didn't want to deal with it, I had to start thinking about the next steps. After a quick shower, I checked my phone. As expected, there were multiple missed calls and messages from Ashley. I didn't open them right away. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling a knot in my stomach. Eventually, I forced myself to read the messages. She was still pleading. Most of the texts were along the lines of, "Please talk to me. I'll do anything to fix this, and we can't end things like this." She even threw in a few promises about going to therapy or counseling, saying she'd cut off all contact with Derek. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it was too little, too late. My parents had also left a voicemail. I hadn't told them anything yet, but I guess Ashley must have called them, trying to explain her side before I had a chance. I dreaded listening to it, but I knew I had to face it sooner or later. With a heavy heart, I called my mom back. She picked up almost immediately. "Jake, what's going on?" she asked, her voice full of concern. "Ashley called us, and she's really upset." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Yeah, Mom, things are not good. I found out she's been cheating on me." There was a long pause on the other end of the line before she spoke again softly. "Oh, Jake, I'm so sorry. I can't believe it." "Neither can I said, my voice cracking a little. "I don't even know where to start." My mom tried to comfort me, saying all the usual things about how strong I was and how I didn't deserve this, but it didn't make the situation any easier. I told her I needed some space to figure things out, and she understood. After hanging up, I knew I couldn't put it off any longer. I had to talk to Ashley, at least to start sorting out the logistics of everything. I couldn't avoid her forever. I sent her a text. "We need to talk. I'll call you later." I wasn't ready for the emotional confrontation that was coming, but I knew it had to happen eventually. This was the beginning of figuring out what life would look like after everything fell apart. Later that afternoon, I finally gathered the nerve to call Ashley. I wasn't sure what I was going to say or how I was going to handle it, but avoiding the conversation wasn't going to help either of us. She picked up on the first ring, her voice shaky but hopeful. "Jake, thank God. I've been so worried. Can we please talk about this?" I stayed silent for a moment, collecting my thoughts. "We need to talk about what happens next," I said, keeping my voice as steady as I could. "This isn't something we can just fix with words." "I can't trust you anymore, Ashley." Her breath hitched. "I know I messed up, Jake. I know I hurt you. But please, we've been together for so long. We can't just throw that away. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "You didn't just mess up. You lied for months. You cheated. This wasn't a one-time mistake. And you can't just sweep it under the rug because you're scared of losing me." "I wasn't thinking," she said, her voice breaking. "It was stupid, and I know I've destroyed everything. But I love you, Jake. I still love you, and I'm begging you to give us another chance." Hearing her say she loved me didn't bring any comfort. In fact, It hurt even more because how could she say that while doing what she did? If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this, I replied, my voice growing colder. You can't say you love someone and then betray them like that. She didn't respond for a while, and I could hear her sniffling on the other end of the line. I was waiting for her to try another excuse or offer another promise that things would be different. But the damage was done. I can't just forget this happened, I continued. I need time. I need space. Right now, I'm staying at Mike's place, but we need to start thinking about what we're going to do next, about the house, about everything. There was a long silence, and then she whispered, Jake, I don't want a divorce. The word divorce hung in the air like a dark cloud. It wasn't something I wanted to think about either, but how could we go back after this? We'll see, I said softly. I just don't know if there's anything left to save. For the first time, it hit me just how real everything was. This wasn't just a fight we could move past. It was the end of something I thought was unbreakable. After that call, the reality of our situation hit me harder than ever. I spent the next few days going through the motions, staying at Mike's, trying to act normal at work, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my whole life had been torn apart. I avoided talking to Ashley again, not because I didn't care, but because I needed space to think about everything. The weight of it all felt too heavy to face. Meanwhile, Ashley sent me message after message, most of them apologizing, pleading with me to come home and talk in person. Part of me wanted to, just to get closure, but I wasn't ready for the emotional roller coaster that would come with seeing her. I was still too angry, too hurt. One evening, I decided to drive by the house. I don't even know why. It wasn't like I was ready to move back in, but there was something about seeing it that made everything more real. I parked a few houses down and just sat there, staring at the place that had once felt like our sanctuary. Now, it felt like a stranger's home. The lights were on, and I could see Ashley moving around inside. It hit me how separate our lives had become. Even though only a week ago, we were sharing the same space, laughing over dinner, watching TV together, living our normal life. But now, it felt like that version of us was a lifetime ago. After about 10 minutes of sitting in my car, I decided to text her. I'm outside. Can we talk? She responded almost immediately, telling me to come in. My heart raced as I walked up the driveway, not knowing what I'd say or how I'd feel seeing her face to face after everything that had happened. When she opened the door, I could see how wrecked she looked. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her face pale. She stepped aside to let me in, and I hesitated for a second before walking in. Everything felt surreal, like I was stepping into someone else's life. We sat down on the couch, the same place we'd spent so many nights together. The silence between us was suffocating, but I couldn't bring myself to speak first. Finally, Ashley broke the silence. Jake, I don't know what to say, she started, her voice shaky. I replayed everything over and over in my head, and I know I ruined everything, but I don't want to lose you. I don't. Her words hung in the air, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was too late. There was too much broken between us, too much damage that couldn't be undone. I looked at her, feeling a mix of sadness and anger, and said the hardest words I've ever had to say. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I stood there, feeling like everything was crumbling around me, but something about Ashley's expression changed. She wiped her tears, and for a moment, I thought she was going to continue pleading. But then, instead of desperation, a strange calmness settled over her. Jake, she said, her voice steady now, there's one more thing I need to tell you. I froze, bracing myself for whatever bombshell she was about to drop. Could it get worse than what I already knew? Was there more to the affair with Derek? I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a freight train. I stared at her, not able to process what she had just said. My mind raced. We hadn't been trying for kids. In fact, we'd been avoiding the subject for years. And now, with everything that had happened, this was the last thing I expected. I searched her face, looking for some sign that this wasn't real, that she was lying or trying to manipulate me. But she just stood there, watching my reaction. Is it? I started to ask, but the word stuck in my throat. The question I didn't want to ask, but had to. She didn't need me to finish the sentence. I don't know, she said quietly, her eyes full of guilt. It could be yours, but it could be Derek's. I haven't told him yet. My legs felt like they were going to give out beneath me. I sank down onto the couch, my head spinning. Pregnant, and it might not even be mine. How did we get here? I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she continued, sitting across from me. I never thought it would go this far. But now I'm trapped, Jake. I don't even know whose child it is. I couldn't look at her. The betrayal, the lies, and now this. It was too much. You've completely destroyed everything, I muttered, barely able to speak. How am I supposed to even begin to process this? I'm so sorry, she whispered, her voice trembling. I never wanted to hurt you like this. I sat there, numb, the weight of everything pressing down on me. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the life that could be growing inside her, a life that might belong to someone else, a life that would tie us to this mess forever. I don't even know what to say to you, I finally muttered, my voice hollow. I came here thinking I might be able to forgive you, but this, I can't. Ashley started to cry again, but I didn't feel the same rush of sympathy I had before. The truth was, she had dug this grave, and now we were both stuck in it. I need time, I said, standing up and grabbing my keys. I can't be here right now. She nodded, still sobbing, but she didn't try to stop me this time. As I walked out of the door, I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing for sure. Things were never going to be the same again, and as much as it hurt, I had to face the reality that this might be the end.